We have been using this particular hour right here on NewsX between 6 to 7 to talk about the economy and how to basically bring the sentiment back, how to spring life back into the economy. And we've been discussing a plethora of events, aspects, as well as ideas that can make that happen. And today, once again, we have stalwarts of the business world who are going to talk to us, give their ideas and their assessment as to where does India find itself and where is India going on from this point. And let me welcome them one by one. Joining us on the debate is Mr. Sanjeeva Shivesh. He's the founder and CEO of the Entrepreneurship School, former civil servant. Mr. Samyak Chakrabarti, Managing Director of X Billion Skills Lab, is also here with us. Mr. Shailesh Gupta, he's the founder and CEO of YOLO Bus, and Ms. Shormishta Ghosh, who's a developmental economist, and Ms. Sheetal Kapoor, CEO of US India Investors Forum, and Ms. Shonali Chaudhary, who's a visual artist. And last but not the least, Dr. Anurag Batra, who's the chairman and editor-in-chief of Business World and Exchange for Media. He's also going to be my partner in crime on this show, my co-host. But in fact, let me start by asking you, Mr. Sanjeeva, what has been your recollection of the events that have gone by in the last 6 months. Obviously, COVID-19 is at the epicenter of whatever is going on, be it schools, be it businesses, be it TV channels, be it debates. Everything has been moving about this epicenter called COVID-19. The economy has taken a beating, but there are telltale signs, once again, that things are moving in the right direction. There are telltale signs that the government is also positive. Obviously, you get to monitor the stock market as well. Ever since COVID-19, some stocks have skyrocketed, and that was in fact the opposite of what everyone expected, including me. What do you make of this kind of a trajectory, and what's your assessment of where we stand today?
Right. Vineet, thanks a ton. Look, in the month of March, when the lockdown started on 28th March, I did publish a report in which we assessed the kind of economic trajectory that we were heading into. And in that sense, we estimated that the nominal GDP will shrink by anywhere between 10% to about 10%. And for this quarter, for which the GDP data is to be published on 31st of August, our estimate was that we would be down by about 22%. And I think we are fairly there. We are near there. Now, since 18th May, I have been traveling and going to office on a everyday basis and have been, I live in Gurgaon, and in that sense, I have first-hand idea of the level of traffic which is there on the road. And I don't think we have...
it's back to normal.
No, it's not yet, right? So it's still, I think the traffic at similar times level, like for like, it's still at about 75% level. So that's where we are. We also track some high frequency indicators and all that. So I think you can't blame anyone, right? So this is an external situation. This was completely a situation for which there was no other response other than to safeguard human life, right? And in that sense, lockdown was the first step taken. Today, we are actually discussing if tomorrow everyone says that, okay, lockdown is over, how is public going to react? Are they actually willing to come out of their homes? And that's a serious question, which means that there's a trust issue in the minds of people, and they are scared of coming out of home. And till the time the data which is there about COVID, it starts saying that we are in a safe territory, I think we will have to live with this situation for a few more months.
Okay. So here, the reason Vineet said it's back is referring to Delhi, where it is back to 90%, possibly 95%. It's almost back to normal in terms of traffic. Today morning, I went from Defense Colony to IC, and in lockdown, it takes 3 minutes. Today, it took 12 odd minutes. I just want to give you a sense that in Delhi, at least, people have started to go out much more than they were. What I want to ask you, Sanjeeva, is that you train entrepreneurs, you create entrepreneurs, coach entrepreneurs, you work with entrepreneurs. What is the sentiment that you get from them? Have they benefited from the economic stimulus? Are they hopeful about the future? And what has been in the pivot in their own business? Give us a
Right.
sense of that.
Anurag, great question. In fact, I work with variety of entrepreneurs, right? And some of those, let's say, some of them, they were able to sense a new opportunity. So let's say that I work with a EV manufacturer. So they are into electric scooters and bikes. Now, while this was all down, right, in the months of last week of March till let's say June, right, nothing was happening. These guys could quickly pivot and create stuff which was required for the market, right? And that was the true entrepreneurial mindset, right? But not everyone was able to. So I also, I would say only about 50% of the entrepreneurs were able to seize on the new opportunity, and they were able to create, call it PPE kits and sanitizers and UV lamp, disinfectant lamp and those sort of stuff. And they were moving ahead, right? So, but they also benefited from the fact that they had establishment which could be used. I also work with entrepreneurs who really, went uh, for call it bankrupt, right? So they were lying very low on cash. They had only 21 days of cash available on 28th March, right? And if you only have 21 days of cash available, you can defer all the payment of bills, etc., etc. But on 31st May, you have to put up your hands and say, I'm done with this, right? So both extremes I saw. Now, in terms of the big package which came in terms of ANB Atmanirbhar Bharat, it was not able to touch a lot of startups because the way it was designed. So it said that it has to be for MSMEs, it has to be only when you are a registered enterprise. And the real sham is that a lot of young nascent ventures, they do not even register. They start getting into this business of doing things, selling stuff, etc., etc. So it could not percolate to them. And this is where I feel their pain and where I am.
Okay, Sanjeeva. Samyak, one of the biggest things is demand, and it has been proven by experience in every economy, certified by economists, that demand comes back when jobs grow. And one of the things that has happened, Samyak, is that jobs have gone away. At least the consensus is in at least 12 million jobs. There are much bigger numbers. And in July, some of it did come back. But you work in the skilling sector. Do you tell us what jobs will be relevant in the future post COVID and what jobs won't be? And will the creation of jobs in these new sectors make up for job loss in the traditional sectors? What is your view? And as an entrepreneur, what have you done to pivot? You'll have to unmute yourself, Samyak.
So as a, to answer the first part of the question, I think what COVID has done is made a lot of companies realize not only how many people they actually need, but what kind of talent they need. And pre-COVID, there was always a sentiment of automation. Of course, not robots, but codes and algorithms and software is taking up most of the manual tasks. So what COVID has done is it has created sort of a filter that what are the kind of people that will be professionally relevant in this new world of work. I believe, and from what I see, only those jobs will remain that have superior cognitive functions. So, creative thinking, problem solving, critical thinking, storytelling. And therefore, only those people will remain relevant who are able to apply their minds more than just refer to a textbook. Because at the end of the day, people don't want, companies already have robots for rote work. Now you need people who are able to apply their intelligence. So I think very philosophically answering, only those people will remain relevant who enhance their ability to think and respond and not get afraid when an uncertain or new kind of task comes. So the race shouldn't be getting more certificates or more degrees, but is to enhance your cognitive abilities. Number one. Number two, India has a numbers problem. We have about 500 million young people, and sadly to say, the hard truth is there will not be enough jobs for everyone. And they may have to be a policy measure, like for example, universal basic support, to be able to absorb the costs of absorb the people who cannot work or cannot get work at all, or are not relevant for the job market. This is the sad truth. So I don't see, when I say yes, will there be new jobs? Yes. But new jobs will require superior cognitive abilities, not superior hard skills or technical skills alone. To your second question, as an entrepreneur, I think one of my biggest pivots was I realized that I myself can operate with a very lean team. I found that remote work is actually quite restrictive when it comes to creative collaboration. It's great for coordination and administrative tasks. So I don't think remote work is here to stay, or here to kind of become the norm. It can be a norm for certain functions. But one big thing is I think lean teams and focus on today's profitability rather than day after tomorrow's potential valuation has been a big shift in my mindset.
Samyak, what do you think has been the government's role in this? Are you satisfied with the stimulus package? Do you think that was something that offset the predicament the country finds itself in, or do you think it had
And
no
did any
impact?
of your friends benefit? Have you seen people around you
Most
actually
importantly,
benefiting from it?
So Vivek,
yeah.
on your
Vineet,
particular
Samyak, his name is Vineet.
sorry, Vineet, on your particular word offset, I don't think definitely even not even 100%, not even 50% has offsetted any form of difficulty, because the bureaucratic hurdles to access anything are also so much that a lot of entrepreneurs that I know choose not to access it, because I mean, I won't get into the technicalities, but broadly it is, of course, it was a ray of hope when it was announced, but then when it actually came to trickling down to people who need it, I haven't seen as many people around me, my fellow entrepreneurs, or the companies that we supply talent to, and I speak to their owners almost on a daily basis. The stimulus is not anything more than just, it was a ray of hope. It put up it injected some momentum
Okay, Samyak.
in the stock market, but that's about it.
Sheetal Kapoor, you deal with a lot of American investors. You work with entrepreneurs. What is the sentiment on India? Does India remain the bright spot in a depressed economy? And second, when do you see the Indian economy coming back again in full roar?
Basically, what I'm seeing is there is a lot of interest in the US economies, the US companies, really to come back into India. They are pretty not happy with China. And I feel that India can play a very great role if our government really assists them. And there are a lot of companies that are looking into manufacturing coming into India. So I think that is a real plus point for Indian economy to get a lot of companies and talents from the US and interest from the US into India. So that is what I really see.
And Sheetal, do you see entrepreneurs around you changing the way they operate? If yes, what are the changes? What are the kind of conversations you have with your friends who are entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I am seeing that work from home, like what Samyak really said, is really making sense for a lot of people. They are seeing that they don't need that many staff. They can do with less. And working from home is also creating a lot of advantages for a lot of people. But like he said, that collaborations are not happening because you cannot like brainstorm with your colleagues. So there is a lot of change that is happening, and I see in the near future, there are going to be a lot of companies that are going to be using technology. And work from home is really going to be a pattern that I am sensing from a lot of entrepreneurs that I'm interested in.
And Sheetal, this question of India becoming an alternative to China in the world global supply chain, is that a pipe dream or do you see it happening? Because I know you talk to a lot of American companies. That's why I'm asking you this.
Yes. See, I understand that India right now, it does not feel ready to take on such a, like a major manufactural role. Our people, skill set.
And why do you say that? I disagree with you that India is not ready. But why do you say that, Sheetal?
The skill sets, the training, the discipline, we do lack somewhere. But I think if an effort is made by the people and by our government, I can see a very bright future for India. And there are lots of companies. We get lots of calls coming in saying that we would like to be connected to people. We want to look at starting manufacturing in India. So I see a lot of growth story happening for India truly.
Thank you. Shailesh, tell us how have been the last 150 days for you, and what are you doing to pivot and take advantage of the new abnormal?
Right. So thanks, Anurag. So I think if you look at how me as well as other peers in the industry have done, we have started focusing on profitability, on unit economics sooner than later, and not only focus on growth at any cost. That is a very big change, and that has really started showing results because the conversation which I'm having within the team as well as with other peers is everyone's unit economics are moving forward because you have no other options. So you are thinking of creative ways of how to add value and then monetize that value. That is a very big, and I think that is a fundamental step required for ecosystem to mature. In terms of what we are seeing since we're in the travel segment itself, we have seen a strong uptick in earlier when lockdowns happened, people migrated from metro cities to tier 1 and tier 2 towns, and now we are seeing a huge reverse migration happening from these places in UP, places in Bihar back to Delhi. And that's, I think that is primarily because these businesses are opening up in these metro cities. So people who have migrated are now coming back, and we are seeing occupancies upward of 70%. So that is a big reflection of economy on the path coming back to normality. If you look into other macro indicators like GST returns, etc., I think it has already surpassed 90% of what was that in the previous year. So the economy is coming back in some shape and form sector. However, the speed has been little slower than, and that is primarily because of the complex country we live in.
So, Rani, the reason I got you on the show is I saw your post. You're a creative entrepreneur, you're a painter, artist, and you sold a big, expensive painting. Are people spending money on a painting? Is a disposable item, right? It is luxury. It is not an essential item. Tell us what has COVID done to your business side? I know you continue to paint. And second, do you see a demand for luxury items like paintings coming back again? Sonali Chaudhary, you have to unmute yourself.
Sonali, can you hear us?
You can hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, Anurag, that's a very good question. And you know what happens, what I have noticed, pandemic is a calamity. In times of calamity, what is most important to human beings is not luxury, it is their needs, not the wants. So, as an artist, in my case, I need to identify that my painting, as you asked, yes, I have sold a painting, and yes, I was lucky enough to sell an expensive painting, but there is also a reason behind that. The painting provides solace in this case, it provides solace to a person. A painting is not just a luxury item. Peace of mind is very important for people, especially in bad times, in any bad time, whether that's a pandemic or any kind of situation. So I feel we as artists, creative people also, instead of seeing our creativity, whatever we make, only luxury goods, we need to cater to the need of people. And that need not only be a physical need, it can be a mental need. And that is very important for people. I have found that to be so.
Okay.
So, Nari, how does a person who can't afford an expensive painting like this find solace and peace?
In my case, what I
And
do
Vineet
is
is not referring to himself. And Mr. Vineet Malhotra is not referring to himself.
Mr. Vineet, in my case, what I do is see the original paintings, of course, are expensive, yes, and there are many people who cannot afford that. So to them, I sell prints, which are much cheaper, and they can put up the same thing. So their need is being met. You see, so there is a way, and many artists do that. They do sell original signed prints, and those are much cheaper than the original paintings themselves. And yes, people can afford them. I had done that. This thing came up in the Indian Army. I had once exhibited for the Indian Army, and the Jawans and Havaldars, the people who were below the officer rank, they were saying we can't afford this. So I said,
before when COVID hit the world, I'm not sure whether this has any relevance or any kind of an effect of any kind on your profession, but when COVID-19 hit the world, I did read Elon Musk write a quote. He tweeted that world economies have failed because people have stopped buying things they don't need.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Anurag?
I think what Sonali is saying has two facets to it. One, I feel,
Yeah.
I agree with Sonali, that paintings, books, movies, songs,
Yeah.
because we're spending more time at home. We interact with them more.
Correct.
We,
Correct.
so I think they have their own role in a person's life. Second, I think one of the sectors that has got really impacted is this creative economy. Movies are not being produced. Authors are writing new books, but I have not gone out in 4 months and read any book. I have been too busy working. But my friends are reading them on Kindle. They're not, which is cheaper, which is still better. And the third point Sonali is making is that we will have to find when it comes to art, we'll have to do sachetization of art. Maybe you can't buy a big painting. She's talking of prints, but there are ways to bring down the unit economics so that it can become more affordable. I want to go to Sharmishta at this point. You're a developmental economist. The biggest question that is on everybody's mind is when will the demand come back? How do we take care of the bottom of the pyramid? The relief package and the reforms by the government of India were looking at the bottom of the pyramid, providing them food. And we may not consider it a big deal, but there has been hardly any social unrest. People who are disadvantaged have got their meals. It's a very big plus because we are secure. We are not understanding if that hadn't happened, what would have happened. So tell us, when is the demand back? When do you see economy coming back?
So, good evening, Dr. Batra, and warm good evening to everyone else on the panel. And thank you for having me here. So, as a developmental economist, and I particularly study poverty elevation, so that's my subject. So, in the most unfortunate of ways, the COVID pandemic became a huge case study for developmental economists like us, because our entire work, the thing that we emphasis on all the time is demand side recession or demand side, how the demand side is met. We don't always talk about the supply side. So whatever most of the governments do, they always do to encourage the supply side. However, during the pandemic, the demand side and the problem with the demand side came and showed its ugly face to the whole world at the same time. So governments all over the world had to take that into account, that we have to take care of the ultimate person who buys a packet of chips or a packet of Parle-G biscuit, which is like 5 rupees or whatever. But that is what drives the economy. So when you ask me that when is the economy going to come back on track, this is a very big question. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that. But what my sense is, the more strength goes to the demand side of it, the more we encourage and we provide to the people who are small spenders. So as you said, the bottom of the pyramid, the more money goes in those hands, the better and quicker the economy revives. So that is the golden magical stick to retrieve the economy. I will also talk a little about how we have taken care of the same segment during the pandemic via food, via medicine. So I must say that the society at large came together, and I could see a lot of camaraderie building up, a lot of help coming out from all quarters. And for me, I think that is the best that we can take out of this unfortunate situation, that if we do it together, we can overcome even the strictest problem of economics, but not by being strictly economic in that sense. As far as the government packages are concerned, they will take their own sweet time to percolate. We cannot really say that 6 months have happened, so how do you see the effect? But I see it coming back slowly on track, as Elish was also saying. A lot of immigration, reverse immigration, and I don't know, re-immigration has started happening. Our helps are coming back to work with us. So that all is happening gradually. But I think the most important lesson from this entire pandemic to me is we have to take care of the demand side all the time. We cannot let the demand side go into recession. So that is the only big lesson that I think from an economist point of view we should take from this pandemic.
Sanjeeva, let me ask you a simple question. People have spoken. In fact, Sharmishta also mentioned that she's not capable of answering when the economy is going to come back. But we all have a thing called conjectures and surmise. I feel that perhaps in 6 months things will be back to normal, and I will be able to take a flight out of India and go for a vacation. Some people also feel that the metro is going to resume, public transportation is going to come back to normal, but all of these things could perhaps be just fantasies that have no legs, because the vaccine is perhaps another year away. And that's just the development. We're not even getting into distribution. The development and the processing of the vaccine will take almost a year or more, and then a couple of more years for it to reach 1.3 billion people. Now tell me, how long do you think it will take for the economy to recover?
Vineet, I think it's a great question, and thanks, Shormishta, for bringing this issue to the discussion. Right? I really think there are ways in which when money supply or the money velocity goes down, money is plenty available in the system today, but the money velocity has gone down, which means that we are not spending. And till the time you do something to kickstart, it will not speed up. So who can kickstart? There's only one entity which has the biggest power to kickstart, and that is Government of India, and then the other state governments, and then public sector undertakings, and then all the private brothers will then they start once they see this traction happening. So this is the cycle, and everyone knows this cycle, but somehow this has not yet happened. And let me give an example. So how to bring the demand back, right? Let's ask, what have we done with the bullet train project in the last 6 months? Or let's ask, how many kilometers of road have we built in the last 6 months? Or how many ports have we built in the last 6 months? Or how many housing projects have been started? And those sort of, the list can go on and on, right? So the real challenge is the government capex has come to standstill. And the reason why it has come to standstill, because government's tax collection has shrunk. It has fallen down it has fallen down 50%. So the maths is fairly simple. Our fiscal deficit at the end of July is nearly equal to the annual target, and we should not be afraid of it. And I'm not sure why government is afraid of it, right? So government should get into borrowing. I'm not saying that you print currency, but you get into borrowing mode. There's plenty of money available, right? So there's money available in every middle class home today. But give them incentive, borrow, and then for God's sake, start this investment process. Once you start this investment process, only then jobs get created which have been lost. So it is not about my job, your job. It's a job of a construction worker. It's a job which we are saying, which is at the BOP. And once those jobs, they start getting, once people start getting paid at the bottom of pyramid, only then people above the pyramid survive. If BOP is weak, we all go down. And we are facing that classic problem. And I have not seen any solution until now. Anything coming from government. And I think someone is scared that our fiscal deficit will go haywire. God forbid, everyone's fiscal deficit in this world is going out. It has gone haywire. It should not worry anyone at all. Just spend. Spend for 6 months. Show the courage that we are there to spend. And I think economy will fall back into track. COVID or no COVID. COVID. Look, in India, COVID is not as deadly as it was. It's been in the Europe. But you need to bring the confidence back. The confidence is low. People are afraid. People are afraid of moving out.
Sanjeev, I'm interrupting you. You rightly said right at the start, it's a healthcare issue. So how do you bring the confidence back if the vaccine is not happening soon? How do you address that? It's very easy to say, let's bring the confidence back.
If I may give a view on that, Dr. Batra, I think that the fear, there has to be a coordinated effort to dilute the fear against COVID. Because today the moment somebody is positive in a society, there's a group message saying, "Arey, ye positive ho gaya," as if it is something more serious. Because fact of the matter is there's 0.1% mortality of the 2% of the population that is affected. So I think the fear has to be removed through a coordinated effort by the media and the government, which will get people to go out. Without which it will not happen. Because as Vineet rightly put, the vaccine is going to take many months for it to reach the last mile.
Okay.
Sanjeev, you also, Sanjeev, you said the COVID situation.
let me talk. So I've been
let me just interject. You said because the COVID situation in India is not that grim. We are number 3
Yeah,
in
it
the
is.
world.
So
Almost
there
3
are
million people.
Let's not get lost
And
into. Let's not get
I
lost.
mean, explain this to me like I'm a 10-year-old, as if how is this not a thing to worry about?
No. So let me just come in. Let's not get lost in statistics, and we have to look at the numbers very carefully, right? So in India, and I track that very. In India, on average, the recovery period for COVID is 11 days, and that is what the statistics says. When you plot the numbers, you can get that thing out. Why no one is talking about it? We are still saying 14 days, 18 days, etc. Right? So everyone is just put into quarantine for so many days, etc. So it's about 11 days when people are back to normal. The mortality rate is fairly low, and it is it is in particular sections. Most important, I think, what is there? We have to build community-based immunity in the society, right? So this is how societies have fought through various waves of diseases in the history, but no one is talking about it, right? So I am moving out and I'm meeting people, shaking hands, right? And I take care that I sanitize myself after that and all that. The business is happening, right? And maybe I would have had what you call asymptomatic COVID by now, right? And I never realized the body has taken it in its own vein, and we have moved on. There have been people around me in offices where I visited, where about 20%, 25% of the people they had COVID, right? But that did not deter me going there. It was just that I took all necessary standard precautions. Wash your hands, right? Everyone tell, or sanitize if sanitization, you have sanitization, clean yourself. And those basic principles allowed, at least I think, me to thrive through, right? We need to talk about the right messages of COVID. Yeah. It is not as deadly. So in Europe, the fatality rate was about 5% to 7%. In India, it's about I'm saying the crude fatality.
I completely understand your point. Now we're getting into stats, but Shailesh, obviously, the threat of COVID is a lot larger than it is perhaps assumed to be. But can you in fact make people go to malls? Can you in fact ask them to visit shops or go to restaurants with their children or go to movie halls? Are you going to eat at a restaurant with your family? I think most of us on this panel will not.
I was about to come to that, Vineet. So I think we all are thinking about, like, as an entrepreneur, I always think about what can you do if you are faced with a problem, right? And I think here we are all talking about risk, but what do you do when there's risk? You try to manage that risk. And if you think out of the box, then can government come out with insurance schemes against COVID, right? The cost of providing insurance for people who get affected by COVID versus the drop in GDP, you can't just compare them at all, because if you are able to provide these innovative solutions where you are able to give them some kind of safeguard guardrails that if you at all get affected, government is there to provide you insurance, government is there to provide you cost of healthcare. I think the cost of providing the marginal insurance capital versus the uptick in GDP, it's a very high ROI in any manner you look at it, right? I think so. This is a time when we should, as a nation, think about managing this and coming out of this in an entrepreneurial way, and not just getting paralyzed because there's a risk out there.
Vineet, can I just make one
sounds
brief
very
point?
easy. Doesn't work out like that. There are too many instant buts if the government. So there is a real factor. I live in Delhi. Things are, we are behaving as if things are normal. At least till yesterday, my family pulled me back and said, "You better not do meetings. You better not go out." So on and so forth. I think there is a real fear. And the moment that fear gets reinforced, we step back. It's a healthcare issue. Till that doesn't get addressed, it will continue to impact the economy. Yes, one has to take all the precautions of the mask, of distancing, and of sanitization. That has become a habit. But I'm saying still there is a long way to go. Sheetal Kapoor, what's your view?
Yeah, what we really need to do is get over this fear of COVID, See, COVID is nothing but another flu. See, if people who have, you don't need to have diabetes. If you have diabetes, it becomes more complicated. But my best friend's husband, he had COVID and we all were very scared. He went to the hospital for a week. He's come back. He's developed immunity now and he's like really going around. So it's nothing but a flu. Cancer is more risky than COVID. So once we, get that concept right, that we are not
But
going
Sheetal, with all due respect, cancer is not communicable.
Right.
I agree with Vinny.
Right?
But what I
So
No,
that's like comparing apples and oranges. Okay, Sheetal, let me ask you another question. If you think it's just another flu, should we open up schools and start sending kids to school if it's just a flu?
Mr. Malhotra, for example, many of these things can be distributed online. So, for example, education, you can still go online and there
Not the same. I have 2 kids. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
I want to tell you this. For the first time, I went out with my kids and my wife for a dinner in pandemic to a friend's home, and my kids refused to come out till 3 a.m. So that's the first time in 4.5 months they went out. You have no idea what it's doing to the mindset of children, because they are. So it's not just about schooling. One, it's the schooling is not the same. Dare I say, we're doing the best we can. So I think there is a huge connection between lives and livelihood. I think government has done its job, but there are issues in terms of not having a vaccine. We as a nation not being as disciplined as we should be. So those are issues we have to deal with. And it is not like a normal flu, Sheetal. The normal flu is not as devastating as this. I mean, the normal flu doesn't kill you in the numbers. It's very easy. And the way you catch the normal flu is not the same. So, yes, we must be cautious. We must take precautions. And I would say at least for a month, we shouldn't let our guard down. That's my personal view. But it does impact business and economy. While
I fully agree with you. I only wanted to make one small limited point, and Vinit.
Yeah, let's get a point in from let's get a point in from Sharmishta. She's been trying to say something since a while now, and then we'll come to you, Sanjeeva.
Sanjeeva very casually said that I might have already been infected once, so God forbid. We really wish that has never happened.
I want to say I met a leading CEO of a leading network for breakfast today early morning. We were in a restaurant. We were the only 2 people dining. There was one more group, 3 people, in a top-notch restaurant, only 2. And this CEO had COVID. And he told me that because it attacks your nerves, he started to forget. While he's recovered, he has the antibodies, all that. He started to forget a lot. And it takes 6 months to 10 months for COVID's after symptoms impacting you going away. So, it's not as simple as we make it up. Oh, you have it once and then it goes away. It's not like that.
It has a different effect on different people, actually,
Also, what I want to add is for this discussion, this is a bigger and larger discussion if, this flu is serious or this virus is serious or conspiracy. I think we should focus on how the economy will be doing with respect to what is happening right now. So my thought is the virus is going to stay as long as it's going to stay. Vaccine will come at its own pace. So what can we do in the meanwhile to not let everything, all our hard work on the gutter? Yeah. So that would be the point.
What's plan B?
Yes, we should not even. I completely believe that this is a very dangerous virus. I'm not getting out of my house until it's necessary. I advise my friends and family to not. Why? It's a virus. It's not. We are not going to logic the virus. It can catch you. You can get well in 7 days, but you can die. So why take that risk? So, but like Sailesh has a different point of view. That's fine. But I think what we all should sit together and put our heads together is, in spite of the virus as it is, the time it will take to have its impact and leave us alone, what can we do to not be devastated as a nation? What can we do to keep the economy maybe together?
But Sharmishta, who's supposed to do this? Who's supposed to act upon your suggestions? It's the government, right? And they've already acted with the stimulus package.
No.
Who's going to tell them to do more?
May I add something here, Vinit?
Sure. Go ahead.
I want to point out one thing, that I believe that in situations of this kind, we need to know the difference between being careful and panicking. What is happening is not panicking. And that is harming our lives, our economy, us as a nation, everything. So we need to take precautions, we need to be careful, but that panic element has to go. And that has to be an individual and collective decision.
Where do you draw that line? Where do you draw that line between being panicky and being, careful? Who's going to draw that line for you? Is the government supposed to put out a blanket, law that you have to wear masks? Who's going to do that? Of course, it's.
See, wearing a mask is not panicking. It's a precaution. It's being careful, using a sanitizer. Very important.
Absolutely.
Panic is when you stop working. When you stop going.
Okay. Yeah, Sanjeeva, go ahead.
Yeah, look, confidence builds in multiple steps. It does not happen that, today all schools are closed and tomorrow everything is open. I'm not at all advocating that. But what I'm advocating is there are some essential, there are sectors of economy which we need to motivate and bring them and do all right things to ensure that workers are there and work can be done. Right. So, for example, construction is already happening, right? So I'm aware, I'm in touch with few real estate developers, and they are doing all their thing which is in their might to ensure that construction happens in the right way with the COVID practices. My plea is fairly simple: that if government last year in Q2 they spent, let's say, 50,000 crore on capex, why are they stuck at 10,000 crore in Q2 of this year? This is my plea, right? Why in Q1? And Q1 was terrible, so I don't want to talk anything about Q1. Q1 was the peak when we were not sure how to tackle with this, how to deal with the problem. But today, there are intuitively some knowledge base has been created, and people are, there are people who have started to tackle it in their own ways. Now, we need to bring out those methods and then bring it out to everyone, rather than as Sonali said, right? We are panicking too much.
Well, absolutely. In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic, Anurag, has also brought in some good gestures as well. India banned about 59 Chinese apps. We all got rid of TikTok. Imagine being haunted by those viral videos from TikTok. Now we don't really need to bother about them. Obviously, that's presented an opportunity for apps such as Chingari to come up. And Atmanirbharta is, what I'm talking about. And Anurag, we don't have much time left, so we'll get on with, the last few customs of this debate.
We need to do this whenever we do the show together, is to ask you, because you are representative of our country, you're representative of the economy, you're representative of the people who are responsible for both lives and livelihood, is when do you see our economy coming back? And in the next 3 months, do you see our economy being better, worse, or tepid like it is now? 3, 4, 6. We know in Diwali there will be a temporary bump. IPL is happening. It's Diwali, so the advertising will be back. Maybe we'll buy a lot of it online. All that will happen. But that doesn't mean we're back to normal. That doesn't mean business or economy will continue to be like that in December, Jan, Feb, March. So give us a sense of, in the next 3 months, do you see Indian economy being worse off, better, or tepid? We'll start with Samyak Chakravarti. Samyak?
I think it will be tepid. I don't see it going very.
And why do you say that, Samyak, it will be tepid?
Because I think that, everybody's saying that on one level, people are extremely cautious, one level, people are extremely bold. So that's going to balance it out. Because for it to get better and sustainably, everybody has to have a similar sentiment. But right now, different sentiments are neutralizing both the good and the bad.
Okay. Sharmishta Ghosh?
I think it will be more or less the same. But the reason that I would think is very different, because the biggest employment generators, the real estate, for an example, those sectors are down. So they are the ones.
I have a different view on real estate. Again, every sector you have to look in a nuanced way. If we had to broadly divide real estate into 4: commercial, residential, retail, and industrial. Residential will see a bounce back. In my view, for the first time, millennials will buy homes because they've actually spent a lot of time in home. They'll value a home much more. Retail is, of course, for now devastated. There is 1,75,000 crores of rental discounting that happened on the lease that is in the limbo. So that won't come back soon. As far as commercial space is concerned, we've discovered flexi working. We'll have to see. It doesn't look good in the short term. But maybe going to office for a lot of us is not just going to office. It's a way of life. So I think you'll have to look at it sector by sector. Sanjeeva, Shivesh, your input on where the economy will be in the short term. Good, bad, or tepid?
I think it's going to be, the worst is yet, we haven't seen the worst yet. And I have a reason for that. Right now, the worst has been deferred or postponed because of RBI, because of moratoriums. And once, so today that debate is still going on. RBI wants to do case-by-case moratorium, banks to recast the loans. But till the pain is taken out, pain will bite us.
Okay, that's not very good news. Shailesh Gupta?
Yeah, Anurag, I think it will be better because the number of people who are panicked are 1 to 2% of the overall population base. But the mass majority which lives in villages, which lives in tier 3, 4, 5, 6 towns, which are common man, they are really not concerned because as like I was traveling in Delhi and I could see buses are resumed, people are traveling.
It feels normal.
Right. So I think the sentiments will be much better. And if you look at the people who are really panicked or who are cautious, very cautious, they are still anyways contributing to GDP because they are working from home. So they are the people who are more sophisticated, literate. So I think overall, the people will start assuming this is a way of life. And the overall
short answers, please. We've almost run out of time. So we would want to, in fact, get last word from everyone.
I think it depends on which sector you're talking about. I think certain sectors will grow and certain sectors might just remain stagnant for a longer time.
Overall, Sonali, good, bad or worse? You're known to be candid. Be candid.
I frankly do not know at this point of time.
Okay,
it might grow, but slowly.
Okay, final word, Sheetal Kapoor.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it will take at least 6 months for the economy to bounce back. The 3 months, I think we will still
without a vaccine
coming in, but it will take at least 6 months for it to really bounce back and for people to get back to normal. We are waiting for the vaccine. Once the vaccine comes in, I see that there are a lot of opportunities out there for India, and I think we will definitely see a lot of things happening in 6 months' time. That's my thumbs up. That
or we could go to Russia and get the Sputnik 5 injected, and we'll be inoculated.
Yeah.
Sure, Mishra?
Vineet, we're waiting for you to do that for us.
That's the best idea.
All right. Have we included everyone? So I guess that's a wrap, right? So thank you everyone for being a part of this amazing debate. It was a lot of fun.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.